Hi, Darcy. I see that you are looking for some help with regular ed instruction and basic instruction, maybe along with some business ideas. So here's a few things that I like to do today. I've kind of refined and gotten a little better at. Let me adjust my camera. You can actually see my full face here. Um, and I hope these can help you. I have a screen up here, and this is what I'm doing right now is screencast-o-matic. So as I do this, and if this is something you would want to do too for your kid or kids, this is something that's really handy. It's free, and at the end, all you have to do is upload to YouTube. Um, so I'll try to show you that process and how it works, as well as some of the other strategies I'm using. So here we go, and feel free to text and call and whatever you need to when we're done if you need more assistance. But right now I have like what I'm doing for economics right now in chapter 5, and I do this for almost every class. There's another thing I'll show you after this, but we'll start with this strategy. And this is the wiki notes strategy that I like to use. The way this works, I have a location where I have saved or I have sent a link to everybody else regarding this set of notes, this file. And when they open it, they have a view only option, but they can go to file after opening that view only and they can make a copy for themselves. And so with this set of notes, they're going to be able to fill in their own information. And sometimes I include some other things with them, but a lot of the times I want them, it's called discovery learning, and I like them to go find their own information, and I facilitate and I guide them through that process. And they can, while I'm walking around the room, they can ask me, does this look good? Does this not look good? Does this represent what you're looking for? And then we can have a real discussion about, well, is that an accurate thing, or what do you think? Do we need something different? And that's a fun conversation to have. That's where the learning takes place, and that's the fun part. So to give you an example, this is obviously just an intro slide, but when we come right down to the first thing, when we talk about supply, I have them go out and define supply. I want them to find a definition, and then we have textbooks too. Do I use them all the time? No, but I do use them to confirm or complement whatever definitions they do find where supply is involved or any other definitions, because sometimes they can find definitions that aren't even close, and I just want to make sure they're successful. But I do want them to be able to not only find it in a textbook, which they're not going to have in the real world. There's no textbook, so to speak. So we use the internet a lot too to find our information. And we don't just find text. So it has text here, but I give my kids the option. They can find text. There's a link down here where it has supply broken down. And in this case, this link connects to a YouTube video. You can see that right there. And they can click on that link, and I'll click on it in this instance. And so it's going to bring a YouTube video about the supply curve and how that works. I just happened to find these people's video in YouTube, and they're perfect for everything I need economics. That kind of lucked out, but you'll find there's a lot of stuff for a lot of different topics now. I'm going to pause this. Okay, so you kind of get the gist there. That video comes in, and they can watch that if they're on their own to get reinformed if I'm not around. And that's typically the situation. You know, they're at home trying to do their homework, but they don't remember, they don't understand. And if we watch this video together, or if they watch it and then ask me questions, they can go back and review it and remember or rethink about, okay, oh yeah, that's what that meant there. And it's more than just the basic definition on the page. There's visuals, there's movement, and it kind of hits all the senses, if you will, minus taste. But I guess this is the way I like to do my notes, and so that's one of the strategies I use. To go even further, we talk about different, like in this case, laws or rules, and so we'll find a definition for that. What does it mean? It's an incentive to produce. A deeper look at supply. There's another video made by the same group that I found. Works out great, so I plugged that in here too. If I don't have the videos, or if I don't want to give them, because we've been talking a lot here about preparing the child for the path and not preparing the path for the child. So when we do that, the big catch is, in my opinion, you're gonna let them learn or develop their own learning. Okay, I'm back. So this is one of the things you can do within this whole scenario. This is where it goes bigger picture. On the next slide, we plugged in a chart, and a table that had the information, but all of this came from a spreadsheet in Google. So I would have taken my kids over to the drive, which my drive's over here. We would have went to new, created a spreadsheet, and then we would have copied the link to that spreadsheet over to my slides to show my evidence of how do I know how to make a supply schedule and a supply curve. And so every one of my kids had to make their own and post it on here and tell me what it represented supply wise. And so they're actively participating in making that supply schedule and curve instead of just looking at it in a textbook and it's just something they saw once upon a time and they won't ever remember. They're forced to remember this because they actually made it themselves. Um, so that's kind of the active set of notes that I do, and we'll go in and out different scenario. Like this is a scenario thing, and they have to make up. I always like to, after we teach the specific skills, then see if they can do it on their own and explain it. So that's what this one does: individual supply curve versus market supply, and they have to make their curves. And how do those three curves represent the full curve or the full supply of the market? I know that in particular may not make any sense or even matter, but that's how you connect all the learning, I guess. Um, and so I'll intermix assignments in and out of my wiki notes, if you will. And a lot of times you'll see with my notes is that I'll plug in something like this, and then that's just a prompt. So now when I see technology, I'm going to ask them, okay, what technology affect, what does it do to supply? And then they have to plug in the different answers as we have that discussion. And it really is a class discussion that we have. This is a discussion you could have with your student, but it's something that you'll have to preload yourself. You'll have to know, okay, what do I want to, what the student to pull when we're talking about this information. So you have kind of a backup plan to answer questions that they might have or spur them on when they're struggling to even come up with anything. And that happens a lot, but that's okay. That's where I have fun because I get to tell stories and talk to them about things that relate to their real life. I'm going to keep going down here on the side. I'm going to see if I can't show you some other things. We did a lot of charts and graphs, definitions, things of that nature. I always like I want to get away from the computer at some point. So down here towards the bottom, after we've talked about all these key concepts, I found a game out there that has to do with, it sounds crazy, but it has to do with supply and marginal product and all these activities. And they have to utilize this card game is essentially what it is, and it deals with hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades and their values and how much we could sell them for, and there's a whole scenario behind it. Um, but they have to practically use the laws of supply and play this game and try to come up with the profit motive and the profit maximization that they would have to come across in this scenario. Now this is an economics explanation, I get that, but this works for anything. I mean, anything you teach, anything you do, you can set up in this scenario. So this is one of the ways in which I try to engage kids and make them a little bit more excited about learning. And if it's a group thing, like this kid and another kid could work well together, this is something they could share. And I encourage this in my class. Share, you can share anything. There's the share button up here at the top. I tell them to, if you got a buddy that you want to work on the notes together with, type their email in here and let's work on it together. And they can answer questions together, plug pictures in. One of the things I'll do from time to time while they're doing this is I'll have them go to the comments section and add a comment. And so they can, on this slide, let's say they had a comment they wanted to leave, they could just type in that comment, blah, 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 comment, and then their partner would see it and they might have to write back. And sometimes I'll preload that. I'll say, okay, we have to go back through the notes now and we have to leave comments on the different slides. You have to leave like 5 comments on, X amount of slides or whatever. And that'll help them have a discussion about the content as well. So it's not just a filling of information on a slide. I'm going to delete this comment because I don't need it. Where'd it go? Sorry. Right click, delete. That's also how I'll give them feedback from time to time. If I can't get to them during the day, I'll go back in and see how because all of this stuff is shared with me in a folder when they make their notes or whatever they do. And so I can see, how much the work they've done and how much they haven't. The other nice thing, if you have a group of kids working on it together, you can go to this all changes saved, and you may know this. I'm just maybe repeating myself. You go to all changes saved. That's also the revision history, and so I can see the person or people who have worked on this up to this point, and it'll tell me in detail what they've done. All I have to do is click, and it'll tell me, and I can scroll through here and see, okay, what was changed, and it'll be highlighted. It'll be like a purple, blue, or red or something like that. Sometimes pink, but um, it's nice to have. It'll tell you who's done what. I don't really want to restore that, so that's it for the wiki notes. I'm going to pause and pull up the next thing, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so in here, you guys have Classroom. I don't use Classroom, I use Google Community instead, but they've worked in a very similar way. So this is how I would share stuff to my students or how they can access some of the things that they're using. So to get to use communities, you just go to Google Plus, and then there's a Communities tab. It looks like this when you mouse down. It's the Communities option. So if I clicked on that, it's going to show all the communities that I have. And so I have one for every class. And to go to that economics class that we were just looking at the slides for, this is the one thing I like about communities over Classroom, and this is what helps me organize, and I think might help you guys too. On the side, you'll see all of these subcategories, and mine are broken down by chapters based on whether we're doing discussion or activities. And you'll notice that even though we have a place where they can do notes, the thing I like doing in addition to that is putting out a question or thought out there and then having all of them add their comments. And the cool thing is this is in their space. This is what they know. So they are really encouraged to type in here. They love adding comments and they love commenting on their comments just like they would on Twitter or Facebook or whatever they're doing. And so it's kind of interesting what happens. You end up creating a learning community right here in your own little space. And I find that very valuable for them and for me. It does spark a lot of good conversation. Um, but this is what I use to get the information out to them, and it's really easy to send them stuff or post it out here so they can get it. So we were in chapter 5, so I told them, okay, go to chapter 5 activities and get your notes, make a copy for yourself. There's the Burka analysis that I help them with the spreadsheet or any charts that I want to help them make, give them an example. Um, this is just a best practice, I guess, in my opinion. So when you want to post something, you just click on this "What's new with you," and you can do photos, you can do links, you can do video. If there's an event you have coming up, you could even do that. I've used that for BPA on a time or two. Um, but these are all things that really enhance what you can do in a class, and I think this is a strategy that has transformed what I do in class every day. And I pulled this from my instructional technology masters that I just received from Fort Hays last year. It was this is one of the best ways I learned. So I would encourage you to use it too if you can. Or in Google Classroom, it's very similar. There's going to be some things you can't do that I can do in here, but it's very similar. And to get information to kids, it's a good way to do it. Um, Other than that, the only other strategy I really have for you right now is this screencast-o-matic that I'm doing right here. Once I pause it or stop it, you have the option to upload it to like a regular video file or YouTube, and you can put it in your own channel, and then you can just share that link right back in this space, which I do a bunch when I'm gone for subs. Or if I want to reinforce a lesson like that I think they need to know more, they may come back to it, like it's an area that kids have struggled in the past. I'll make a video to remind them of what we talked about in class. I haven't got to the point where I record class and then they get to go back and look at that. I just don't have the equipment or the time to get that set up yet, but maybe someday. So I hope these strategies help. Other than this, while we're wrapping this up because it only goes 15 minutes, and I hope you're not asleep yet. Some websites that you might want to consider, or things that you might want to consider business-wise specifically. I use a lot of virtual business through the Knowledge Matters group. I have 4 different simulations that are run through there, and they have reading quizzes, math quizzes, and simulations that they can do in there. Um, and I use it for personal finance, marketing, entrepreneurship, and accounting. So those have been great supplementals that I use. But for this kid, I would guess they would be great just instructional. From the sounds of him struggling in the regular ed class, it kind of changes the pace of a regular ed class and engages him in a different way. So you might look at those virtual business items through the Knowledge Matters group. If you just type in virtual business in Google, you can find them there. All right, I hope this helps. Have a good day.